I covered a lot of different states preparing from Hurricane Helene. And when it moved into North Carolina, it caught me sort of off guard. And so I'm curious if you could give us some perspective from the ground there. What was it like? What was preparations like? You're about 10, 15 minutes outside of Asheville, North Carolina, so folks can kind of get oriented with that. What did you think? What went through your mind?
To me, to my knowledge, it was never thought of as something that was going to be nearly this big a deal. We had a sign on our factory door. Another tenant had put up that was like, "Hey, we're going to be closed on Friday. We'll be back Monday. We'll see you Monday." So, I had dinner with my father-in-law on Thursday night. We grabbed some wings, and just it wasn't even a notion. We live on a farm currently. And we were told, maybe 25, 35 mile per hour winds, which wasn't going to be bad. So we just needed to make sure that the animals were safe. And that was really all that was on my mind. I had no notion that we had to be worried about our factory.
And then what happened?
So the storm came through, here, on our farm. It was pretty windy and pretty rainy, and there were trees down everywhere. So the storm was kind of crazy. We live on some land with my in-laws, actually are building a house on the land as well. And so me and my father-in-law were chainsawing trees for about a day and a half after it happened, just so we could get out of our driveway. We kind of thought this was the biggest deal. Some trees down, we just have to clear a path. Power had went out. But I didn't even think about the factory or asking about the factory until Sunday. Hadn't even crossed my mind. I hadn't even really hit the news that there had been any flooding or any mudslides until Sunday.
So Sunday, you start thinking about this. When do you first see your factory, and describe to us what you saw?
Yeah, I texted the building manager just to say, hey, still don't have power where we're living, just checking on you guys, your family, to make sure you're okay, and wanted to make sure that the factory was good. And he texted back like, hey, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think it's good at the factory. And he sent me one picture that he was able to get, which was the parking lot of the factory. And in the parking lot, it was caked in mud, and you could see rubber soles everywhere in the parking lot.
Those are your rubber soles. They're soles for your shoes?
Yeah, they were soles from our shoes. So I kind of panicked, this is kind of unbelievable to me. You could see, there were vans in the parking lot that, had a mud line, up to their windows and had been moved in the parking lot by the water. So my father-in-law and I got enough gas to kind of make it up the mountain into the factory. And I drove around and got in the factory with a headlamp. It looked like a muddy river that was almost as tall as me had just been, forcefully come through the factory. I mean, it had taken, it had carried machines, it had carried pallets with material on them, 200, 300 yards in the factory. It was a nightmare. I'm trying to not get emotional while I'm talking to you, but it wasn't good for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can all only just imagine. And I know it's not just you and your wife that have built this business. You have 3 little girls, 9, 7, and 3. Mm-hmm. So while you're doing all of this as a young family, an entrepreneur with your in-law, everyone seems like you seem like you have an amazing family. I can't imagine what it's like to try to keep that on track. And then you have your children that you're trying to also care for. And that's also part of this. So There's a lot here. So don't worry about a thing.
So I think the biggest thing for me is knowing that we had lost everything in our business, but also what I was going to say was I had to go in on Tuesday. So the day after we found the factory in the state that it was in, I had to go and evacuate my mom from my childhood home. There was a mudslide in Fairview, which is my hometown, and it took out some houses, but it also took out the road to get in and out of her house. So I had to drive out there and backpack in and evacuate my mom so she could come stay with us for a little bit, even though we didn't, we didn't have power or anything either, but it was at least safer at our house. So all this was going on, and it was just really so much at one time to figure out how are we going to keep things together, with the family, but also figure out this business. So your question was like, how has it been? It's been a whirlwind up until now. I'm just this week kind of crawling out of and figuring out, what do we do from here? But I will say, honestly, we have this amazing group of friends and customers and, family who have been able to like rally around us and really root for us. I'll be honest with you, on that Monday when I saw the factory, it was like, okay, well that chapter of my life is gone. We're gonna have to write this off and move on. That quickly changed over the next few days because we had so many people behind us like, no, you gotta build this back. You gotta figure out how to come back from this. And so that's I'm crying because I'm fighting off crying because I'm emotional. But the amount of positivity that I've gotten out of this, over the past week has just it's been really incredible.